Well, what a week it's been. Where should we start? I think the obvious place to start is hello and welcome back to the Untold Story podcast. This week, I am mostly going to be talking about football because what a week we've had over the last nearly a week. I'm recording this on Saturday, so 6 days. We have had a new Champions League format announced. We have had the European Super League come and go. We have had Florentino Perez, who is the owner or founder of the European Super League, come out and say some ludicrous stuff. We've had protests. We've had David Moyes suggesting new United leagues. So, I mean, it's been an absolutely wild week so far. But before I start, if everyone could go and follow my Twitter at Untold Story Pod _, like, share, and follow all of the podcast on Spotify or whatever streaming service you use to listen to the podcast on, and we will go ahead and get started. So I'm going to read out an article on the Champions League's website that details the format. So, and then I'll work my way through it and what I think is if it'll work, if it won't work, and so on. So the format details on UEFA.com says, taking the total number of teams from 32 to 36 in the Champions League, the biggest change will see a transformation from the traditional group stage to a single league stage, including all participating teams. Every club will now be guaranteed a minimum of 10 league stage games against 10 different opposition. That means 5 home games and 5 away games, rather than the previous 6 matches, which means 3 against 3 teams played on a home and away basis. The top 8 sides in the league will qualify automatically for the knockout stage, while the teams finishing in 9th to 24th place will compete in a 2-legged playoff to secure their path into the last 16 of the competition. Similar format changes will also be applied to the Europa League. They will play 8 matches in the league stage, and the UEFA Europa League Conference 6 matches in their league stage. Subject to further discussions and agreements, these 2 competitions may also be expanded to a total of 36 teams each in the league stage. Qualification for the Champions League will continue to be open and earned through the team's performance in the domestic competition. One of the additional places will go to the club ranked 3rd in the championship of the association in 5th position in the UEFA National Association ranking. Another will be awarded to a domestic champion by extending from 4 to 5 the number of clubs qualifying via the so-called Champions Path. The final 2 places will go to the club with the highest club coefficient over the last 5 years that have not qualified for the Champions League group stage but have qualified for either the UEFA Champions League qualification phase, the Europa League, or the Europa Conference League. All games before the final will still be played midweek, recognising the importance of domestic competition across of Europe. So, a few footballers have came out and had their disagreements, I would say, with the new format. I think the one big issue that people have is that, for example, I know this one's being used. If West Ham finish 5th, Man United finish 6th, Manchester United will get into the Champions League due to their club coefficient. Even though West Ham over the season have performed better, which should mean they should have the chance to compete in the Champions League if it goes down to that. So I think that's one thing that people don't agree with is the club coefficient rule. But Ilkay Gundogan has tweeted out on the 22nd of April saying, with all Super League stuff going on, can we please also speak about the new Champions League format? More and more and more games. Is no one thinking about us players? The new Champions League format is just the lesser of the two evils in comparison to the Super League. The Champions League format right now works great, and that is why it's the most popular club competitions for the players and the fans. I think the reaction to the tweet was very much a hit and miss, with one person bringing up, you get paid to play football, so stop moaning, enjoy it. And then you have others who agree with him. And, you can see, I think it's completely, he's completely within his right, I think I saw one the other day that said we need 400 days in a year to complete the amount of games that the UEFA want us to play and stuff like that. So you can see why people don't think it's a good idea, but you can also see why people think, oh, this might be better, a bit more competition in the group stages rather than people just going, I'm out now, we're out now, so I'll just put out me second string and we'll go for the Europa League. But I can also see where everyone else is coming from. So, if we move on to the Super League. So I did cover this in a podcast that came out on Wednesday. I think Wednesday was the big day. Everything kicked off. Nothing was ever the same. You could say I'm in a group chat with the people from the Main Event podcast. They were like, oh yes, this has happened. And then a minute later, Woodward had left Man United. Juventus's chairman had stepped down from a role. Everyone was leaving. Everyone was resigning, leaving the Super League. No piece of news was ever relevant for more than 5 minutes. So I released my podcast, and within 20 minutes, it was completely outdated. I was thinking about removing it and wait until everything had settled down to release it, but I just thought, it's out, so just leave it out, and we'll come to it in today's podcast. So, the Super League, the only teams left in it are Real Madrid and Barcelona. This being said, I think Juventus might still be in it. I'm not too sure on that one, although I think they did leave. Florentino Perez has came out and said, I don't need to explain what a binding contract is, but effectively they cannot leave. He continued to say, some of them, due to pressure, have said they are leaving, but this project, or one very similar, will move forward, and I hope very soon. So I think what he is saying by that is that the Super League will happen. Whether it's called the Super League or not, it will happen. This is a competition that has been rumoured for years and years and years. But I think the one thing that people are concerned with is that it will ruin the domestic game as we know it. I can't see Premier League teams, and I know an unnamed owner came out and said that if we are in the Super League, we will play our under-21s in the Premier League, so our players aren't risked in the big money competition. Ben Mee came out and had his say. He said, footballers play for the fans, not people in boardrooms. No one scores a goal or makes a last-ditch tackle to earn the praise of the owners. They do it for the feeling they get when the crowd roars. The feeling of elation when we win is the same as it was as a kid. Something those who know very little about football cannot relate to. Football is about competition and enjoyment. That is why we love the game. Without that, it's just a business. And I think he is absolutely bang on. Because, you've seen, everyone should have seen on Twitter and YouTube and the news, all of the the protests that have gone on outside Chelsea's ground when they were announced that they were in the Super League, Arsenal's ground to try and get Stan Kroenke and the Kroenkes out of Arsenal to sell the club, Tottenham's ground to try and get Daniel Levy out of the club. Ian Wright tweeted in response to the Arsenal protest saying hashtag Kroenke out and that he wants the silent owner to leave now. Chelsea's Abramovich said he deeply regrets the European Super League, and so far from my knowledge Daniel Levy has not came out and said anything just yet. Another Super League that is rumoured to be happening is the British Super League, which means Celtic and Rangers will be moved into the Premier League, and it will change from a 20 team league to an 18 team league. The top four will go into a playoffs, and so on. 2 semi-finals, and then the final, and then whoever the winner is will become the champion of the Premier League. Now, I have a problem with this because you're telling me, how do you decide who them 18 teams are? Because all 20 Premier League teams, well, 19 at the minute, with Sheffield United being definitely relegated, you got 19 Premier League teams who are in that league on merit. They have played to get there. So how do you decide which teams get relegated and which team stays up? And then, how do you decide what championship teams come up, or do no championship teams come up? You've got Barnsley sat in the playoffs in the championship. This could be an absolutely historic moment for Barnsley, who would not expect to win League One 2 seasons ago. Now they could be in the Premier League next season through the playoffs. And you're telling me that they could just be told, nah, we're shortening the amount of teams, so you're not going to get in. But Celtic and Rangers can get in. It's completely unfair. If Celtic and Rangers want to come to England, then they have to start at least in League 2 and work their way from there. Possibly even the conference. You cannot have Celtic and Rangers just walk in to the Premier League. First off, I think they'd get relegated straight away, just due to finances. I think the Premier League clubs have much more money than them. And if they can stay up the first 3-4 seasons, then yes, they might be able to catch up. But David Moyes has had his say on a potential unified British competition instead of the European Super League. He said change is needed in some way. I think the Premier League has a brilliant product, but at the top clubs, you're talking about too many games, so we could have a Premier League 1 and a Premier League 2. Could we have a situation where we do invite Rangers and Celtic to the Premier League 2? Why can't we unite the UK? Why do we have England and Scotland and not unite it? Why can it not be a pyramid that allows teams in the Scottish leagues to get into the Premier League 2? In fact, I think more money would filter down if Rangers and Celtic could be given an opportunity to come in. Moyes also believes that such a reform could also help alleviate packed fixtures schedules that many clubs competing in numerous competitions are having to contend with. I think what he says there is going off all of the Champions League managers and Europa League managers complaining that they're playing on a Thursday and then a Saturday at 12:30 or a Sunday at 1 o'clock. And they said their players aren't having enough time to recover to play in such a high. I remember Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, after when his job was on the line, they were playing Europa League midweek, and then he had to play Everton on a Saturday, and it was just like, and he came out and said, the players have given massive credit to the players because they've barely had any time to prepare or rest after 2 very intense games. But I do agree with David Moyes in the sense that change is probably needed, but I don't think drastic change. And I think in terms of a Premier League 2, I know this was mentioned like how Germany and Spain have it, where Premier League's under 23s would then become professional teams and play like just below a League 2 standard. I think that was a few years ago. So correct us if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Where they can't get promoted, but they still play against men, like in a professional standard, instead of just people their own age, and it creates a bit more of a competitive edge to under 23s football, because I think a lot of ex-footballers have definitely complained. I think a lot of fans have complained that under 23 and reserve football is nowhere near as good as it used to be, even 10 years ago. So I agree that it needs to be looked at, but I really don't agree with Rangers and Celtic coming into the English game. I do, though, see an opportunity to have like a League Cup, get rid of the English League Cup, and you could have the opportunity to create a British League Cup where you have all the teams in Britain, Scotland, England, and Wales. You could potentially move to a United Kingdom one and have Northern Ireland in there, an Ireland, UK and Ireland trophy, where all the league teams compete in this trophy, and then again the finals either at Wembley, at the Millennium, at Hampden Park, or the Aviva. All these big stadiums in these different countries. You could definitely have like that sort of competition. I think Scotland might have one already, where they play Welsh teams, but again, I'm not too sure on that. I would have to fact check that. But I think that's the only way you could get all of the British teams together in one competition, which I think that's more than enough possibility, especially with everything that's going on in the British Super League. But we'll wait and see what happens. I'm sure something will happen within the next 4 to 5 years, but we'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we move on to Formula 1, where Formula 1 have announced that Miami will host its first Grand Prix in the year 2022 after Formula 1 secured a 10-year deal for a race in Florida City. The track will be 3.36 miles, and it will be around the home of the Miami Dolphins NFL team. A date for the Miami event has not yet been announced, but Formula 1 President and Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali said it would be in the second quarter of the year and would be kept separate from the Austin event to keep the right space for both. This suggests Miami could be twinned with the Canadian Grand Prix. He added, "The US is a key growth market for us, and we are greatly encouraged by our growing reach in the US, which will be further supported by this exciting second race." Also, in Formula 1, the Japanese Grand Prix is set to remain until 2024. The figure of 8 track first staged an F1 race in 1987 and has decided the Drivers' Championship on 11 occasions. Again, Stefano said the 3-year extension shows a long-term commitment to the growing of the sport in Asia. This year's race was due to be held on the 10th of October after the 2020 Grand Prix was cancelled because of the COVID-19 virus. However, it is one of a number of non-European venues which are in doubt for the 2021 season, either as a result of immigration restrictions or still because of the pandemic. The final thing on Formula 1 is that George Russell has issued a public apology following his crash with Valtteri Bottas at Romanga Grand Prix. Russell said he takes responsibility for the risk he took in trying to pass Valtteri's Mercedes and it not paying off. He then added that his emotions got the better of him. After the incident, Russell went over to Bottas and swore at him after their crash, brushed his helmet with his hand after he was given the middle finger in response. I think all of that was just in the heat of the moment, and I'm sure that it was all sorted very quickly after with the Mercedes higher-ups. But after an exciting end to the podcast with Russell and Bottas, I think that I'll wrap it up there by saying again, please follow me on Twitter at UntoldStoryPod_ and also on my personal Twitter account at CamDodds TUS. The TUS is all in capitals. Please, once again, follow the podcast on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube, like on YouTube, share it with anyone that you can. And please, everyone, stay safe, have a good day, and goodbye.